I'm Clint, and welcome to Swatches Livestream number 17. I'm going to just be taking a minute here to look over the settings, make sure everything's good, and we'll leave everybody a moment to join in the stream before we get started. If you're watching this in recording, I'll put a timestamp down in the description below, and you can jump right to the main content. But otherwise, yeah, we'll just be giving a moment to everybody. You know what helps when you're doing live streaming? Remembering to update your stream key from Twitch to YouTube. Yeah, they don't use the same ones. Yeah, that helps a lot. So, Marcus J. Welch, good to have you. Ren, I don't know how to say your last name. Bjorn, your last name. Kina, JT, Rapixer, Just a Decoy, Fox, hey, welcome. From Brazil, awesome. Maxence, hello to you too. Alright, let me switch back over here. Should be good for you guys, I think. I'm gonna just pull that over to this part. Yeah. Oh, Pamela, sorry you couldn't make it. I understand, things happen. Yeah. Onibot. Bristol, UK. Awesome. Good to have you. Guys, we got so many entries for last time's challenge. Maybe it was that extra day. That extra day just made everybody decide that they were going to join. But we have by far the most entries ever for one of our art challenges for this last one. Yeah, we'll just give another moment for everybody to log in. Some people's internet's connections aren't as good as others. Then we'll start by taking a look at the entries for last week. And I will try to briefly go through them all. But we're talking about 42 entries. Even if I just took like 2 minutes a piece, that's an hour and a half. And, that's basically more than the whole stream. So we'll see what we can do. And then I'm gonna pick some winners. And, oh yeah. Okay, before I forget, guys, I started a new Facebook group just for you Swatches guys. So right here, under group, swatches.group. There's no .com, it's .group. And that will link you immediately to the Facebook page. It's an open one. You do have to ask to join the page, but then I will just okay everybody who asks. That, I'll just approve everybody. That is the place where I'm going to start putting the Swatches live stream announcements are going to go out there. Any other scheduling if I'm going to be at any other events. You can also put up your pictures if you want to get feedback from the group. As I have time, I'll jump out there and, toss in some thoughts. But I don't always going to have time. So if you want to give some peer feedback, then you're welcome to do that. I also started the new Discord. So if you want to go out there and you can do text chats with people, if you want to hook up your microphone and chat with some other people in the group, then we have a Discord server for Swatches, and that will also double for Vibrance at this point. One of them's, there's like 2 channels inside of the server. And we will maybe even break it down from there depending on how many people we have and, how that's going. But the link to the Discord server is listed in the description for this video. And I'll also put it up a bit earlier. And it's also mentioned if you join the Facebook group, there's a link there where you can go get it. So that is all happening. Things are growing, and there is more ways to get connected. Also, if you are a patron or you're interested in becoming a patron, then heads up, guys. About an hour ago, I restructured the Patreon page. So the top 2 tiers are gone. 20 and 30 are gone. All right, and I've replaced them with a 40. Now, let me just give you the overview of what's going on with the Patreon. I originally started Patreon about a year ago. Yeah, last January. And every month I was putting out educational art content. And that was really good for a while. But the thing is, I literally took half or less number of commissions last year. in order to do that. And this year I'm picking up more commissions, which means I have less time for Patreon. And it also means that I wasn't getting to do hardly any art myself. I did very little art last year compared to the previous years. So going forward, my Patreon is going to be based on supporting my artwork if you like my work, or if you just want to support the channels and the communities that I have. And it all goes back to the same place. And if you want to support that, then you will get the JPEGs, layered PSD files, full res files, and time-lapse videos of different stuff that I create. Most of it will be personal work because I don't have NDA rights to do some of the commercial work that way. And also the top tier, which is a $40 tier, you get all of that stuff. You automatically get any new content that I create as far as ebooks or, materials that go in the store. And you also get to send me a picture once to twice a month, depending on when things are released. And I will record a personal video feedback to you. So if you're picking up maybe your first commission, you got a book cover, you're working on it, you're hitting a block, you just send it to me, let me know what you're working on, show me your reference images, give me an outline of what you're having trouble with, and I will record a video and get it back to you. It's more expensive, but that's what you get. Personal feedback on whatever it is that you are working on. So, you can go out to the Swatches. I don't even know if I have it listed in here. Painting. No. Anyway, patreon.com/swatches if you want to get in on that. Alright, now you guys have been putting some stuff here in the chat. And I want to pull up here, see if I missed anything. Congrats on the growth of entries, Molly. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Maybe it's the Vibrance. I'd like to think maybe the Vibrance group has something to do with it. You know, talking about being motivated and having more time, making more use of our time. We can get more stuff done. I myself have been able to do several extra events this month. Worked on, doing more of this, getting the Vibrance group going. I tell you what, when you learn to manage your time better, it's amazing how many extra stuff you can get done and really get ahead on personal projects. Swatches, are you ever on Discord? Yes. Yes and no. I will be out there when I can. I'm going to go ahead and say that it will probably be more for the community than it will be me out there. Because I'm on and off the computer and running around like crazy. And a lot of times when I try to focus, I don't want anything. I don't have videos, music, or anybody around. I like it absolutely quiet with no distractions. So that's one of the reasons I probably won't be on Discord when I'm actually working. But if I'm chilling, yeah, I'll try to join you guys. Am I a crazy person? Can I join? Yeah, anybody can join Discord. Federico, and for those who are like Federico, what is Discord? Discord is a online chat application service where you can chat like through a microphone with other people. And if you have a specific Discord link, it will send you to a certain lobby, what they call a lobby room in Discord, and you can chat with other people. So this will be for everybody that watches Swatches, or, you want to talk about building portfolios, if you want to share links, or if you want to talk about the newest art challenge, or just make some artist friends because you don't have any in the region that you're at. This is what that is for. Okay. Swatches, will we get a critique for the Tomb of the Sphinx character thingy from the Patreon challenge? Yes, I've been out of town. What was it, Tuesday? You know what, Bjorn, that is a good point. Let's do it this Friday. I'm actually going to write that on my list right here. I let that slip by me, and now I'm putting it on the list, and it will get done. Friday, Patreon video chat. All right, good reminder. Thank you. Sorry for letting that slide by. Yeah, we have to take care of that. Pamela, I actually have a Viking music louder than you. I'm sorry. I'll turn it down. Not a problem. Hey, you can love your Viking music. I love how your space mat came out. I really enjoyed watching the process, says Mitch. Well, thank you. Yeah. I had a good time doing that. Expect more space stuff from my personal work. I just enjoy space and sci-fi. Now, Pamela's Skyrim. Yeah. Federico, I've been procrastinating all day long. That is not the thing to say in this group, bud. Come on, get your butt in gear. Get something done. Okay. Backing up. Swatches. Do I believe in God? Not really relevant to this, but yes, I do. You know, if your God is a Viking god, Pamela. Yeah, that's some pretty serious gods going on in Viking. Okay. Nick says, what's up, Clint? At the work at the moment. I'll probably catch your stream a bit later. All right. Hey, it was good to meet you, Nick. Nick came by and met me at the Magic the Gathering tournament down in Dallas last weekend, a couple of days ago. And so, yeah, it was great. I'll be doing some more events coming up around the country. My next one is again in Dallas that I know of. Then I should be doing Atlanta in April. And they're Magic tournaments. Even if you're not Magic players, you're welcome to come down and join me and say hi. Maybe we'll take off for lunch and chat or something. Mitch says, I've never seen you do fan art, but I'd love to see you do a painting of Spawn. Interesting. We could do maybe some fan art over on Twitch just for the kicks. Yeah. It's not something I usually think of, but I could do that. You've only drawn 2 hours today. Ah, well, maybe, you know, time frame. Maybe you've only been up 2 hours. I don't know where you live. All right, enough chat for now. There's a lot of images, so let's start cranking through these entries. Here we go. This is what everybody's been waiting for, right? Okay, so this is what we have. I'm going to bring this up because I usually forget that you can't see all that. These are what we have. Now, some of these are blank, but it's just a weird thing. It won't give me the icon unless I actually bring it up. Anyway, we'll bring it up and take a look at those, even if they look blank in the thumbnail. Alphabetical is how we're doing it. We have Acorn Warrior by Mr. Daedalus. I think this is a very charming piece. It's well executed. I like the take that it's gone from usually what you think of a very large elemental to something very small. The description said something about this little guy has all the attitude, doesn't care that he's little. He will guard your garden with his life. I think this is nice. It's making use of several different elements. He's got the leaves for the wings, and for the adornment or jewelry, he's actually found a little ring, I guess, down on the ground, and he's put that on as a bracelet. That little attitude of the face is nice. I like that. Alessandra. All right, I guess I'll use this. It's having a problem with my pad there. Okay. Alessandra, this one is, you know, reminded me a bit of Moorbacher with his angels and the mixing of, like, natural elements of, like, wood and stone along with something that, this seems like metal, brass or something. I like that. I would like to see more of the body, but I think it's a cool concept. I'd like you to keep going on it. I think there is more to be drawn out of this image than this. Yeah. Okay, again, if you're new to the chat, then make sure that you're putting @swatches at the beginning of your question or comment directly to me. Otherwise, if I don't see it, I'm probably not going to read the comments. I just look for the ones that's flagged. Otherwise, I assume you guys are talking to each other. All Night Designs has this one. This just seemed a little small. Maybe I didn't pull off the full res version, but maybe if you could host a bigger version of the piece, that would be better. Little mushroom guy. This is cool. And he's got, like, rock legs, I think. And some sort of electricity or magic keeping him together. And he's even got little extra stuff. This would be like the adornments. And he's got, leaves. Little trees for wings. Okay, cool. Andrea Maki. Beautiful scene. Colors. I feel like it's probably just a little unfinished. I can't make out what this red is. I don't know if that's like some sort of grass or plant or like stone or something. So this headpiece is really cool. I like how that's coming up, and that they're essentially like petals, but they're not like all red. They just taper to red, and that's cool. I would like to see more naturalness, that sort of approach carried through the rest of the body. It's almost like it's just a humanoid body that has a couple of modified things. So let's get that same idea, carry it down through the rest of the body, and just clarify what it is that we're seeing here on the background. Okay, Banjo. I believe Banjo said that he ran out of time, so he got started. This is what he had, but didn't get time to finish it. We all have that from time to time. But it's an interesting pose. I like that. It has some dynamics to it. The idea he's like molten... he's like metal, I believe he said. And there's going to be cracks where like molten metal is coming out. Then there's steam vents. And the vents sort of create the wings. So, yeah. Again, I can't really say too much about it. He's not finished with it. So, yeah. Barely Molly. I really like this. This honestly just made me smile, and if you can get a emotional reaction out of me, you're earning extra points. Alright, so this is just kind of a charming. I love this little guy here, and he's got some sort of like golden little shrine figure up on top of him, and the banners waving around gives it a little extra motion. Pretty straightforward as the elemental idea goes. If I was to, suggest some things, I would just suggest getting the same idea and just pushing it a little bit further. And that would be, let's make this a whole little gig up here. Like, I would look at some really neat shapes for, like, bonsai trees and make this whole thing more Asian. And so I have like a bonsai tree up here, and you can have some little lanterns hanging off of it, and then maybe even some more little flags, and, maybe you have a couple of these little guys. Like, this is a walking little shrine area, and that would be fun. Becky Hall, Storm. This is a Storm Elemental. This is a unique take. I've not seen a Storm Elemental take in this direction. We have several Storm Elementals. This one's like the electricity is holding... I take it that this is like rocks. The texture is a little unclear. I would suggest clarifying that texture for me. I think that it's probably rock or stone. I like the idea that the electricity, almost like magnetism, is holding this thing together or spreading it apart. It's cool. I think that the execution isn't quite there. You need to refine the execution, but excellent concept. You also might want to start changing up some of the shapes of these. So it's like, the more it's compacted, the more they start fusing together into larger pieces of rock. Otherwise, it's really busy right now, where almost all the rocks are pretty much the same size. Barely Molly says, oh, thanks, Clint. Well, you're welcome, Molly. Thanks for entering. It was a fun little character. I wanted to add some Chinese lanterns, but ran out of time. I hear you. Well, you're on the right track, though. You were on the right track. Bjorn. Here we go. Again, another character that just makes me smile. This is a good character. I don't know that I would count these so much as wings. Almost more like a cloak. But he's fun, right? And for a scene like this... it's obviously going for a lot very happy feeling. Is a very charming character. So let's go ahead and brighten this up and add some more light to it. Where it almost looks like there's just one little positive light over here. And it's almost like the dark woods, because there's so much black in this scene. And I'm really thinking there shouldn't be that much black for what should be a very sunny, happy scene and character. Yeah, let's play with that a little bit. I like the inclusion of the squirrel going for the little acorn. He's like, oh, here you go. You can have the acorn. That's fun. CM Graves said that they wanted to challenge themselves. And wanted to do a wind, I believe it was wind elemental. And yes, that can be very difficult. This is their take, and I think that in this case, you probably chose too light of a background, and that's one of the one of the things that you're running into is that you're trying to keep them very light, but you have a very medium light background to begin with, which means that you're sort of running out of values to work with. So I would suggest doing that. Also, take some more inspiration from something like a tornado would be an excellent place. And don't be afraid to dip down into the more illustrative terms. You don't have to be completely literal. If we were doing literal wind, you wouldn't be able to see it at all. But if it's wind that has more stuff in it, and it's thicker air with more moisture in it, then we can start having some form. Yeah. Caesar, man, thank you for entering something that is just the black and white, good line work. We don't get that very often. I do like seeing that change of style in here. So check this out. Some really nice line work in Caesar's work. Check this out. We've got like multiple sorts of elements. It reminds me a lot of the Swamp Thing from the DC Comics. So we have a wood head and grass up on the shoulders, rocks down here as part of the legs and arms, and then these nice big leaves arching up over to be the wings. For this, I'm almost feeling like the eyes are not needed, or that there should be some other answer to the eyes. It makes it, to me, I find that the eyes of all things make it feel a little more, it's not, doesn't have continuity with the rest of the character. All of a sudden, there's just this super humanoid, soft, fleshy eyeball. So maybe a different answer on that. But otherwise, excellent shadowing and line work and overall design. Yeah. Clover Elemental. Again, another change of design. Very bright and colorful. And doing a character design, you know, not doing a whole scene. I take it this is either a fire or magma. I think if it was magma, we'd probably see like more cracks in magma. So I'm thinking this is probably just fire. Maybe in a low liquid state. And he's got these rocks coming out of it. And the rocks have some runes. And these sort of serve as the adornment / wings. And that's good. I do commend the overall simplicity. A lot of people have a difficult time getting simple, but yet still giving it a lot of color and character. And I think you've done well on that. Maybe shifting this shape up a little bit so it has something a little more interesting than one little arc. If you had some little pieces coming off of it like wings, or if you just continued this pattern of these little rocky spikes, let that come off the back of these or off the side of these too. So they're a little less, you know, man-made and being a little more earthy and organic with the extra spikes coming off. Question, for what are people using art books besides inspiration? What are people using art books? I would assume for education. I've got a lot of art books for education or ideas. Yeah. Okay, I've got to go faster. David's? Maybe we'll just feature these and I'll come back and I have to just hit on some of these because we still have like 35 to go. Alright, David's work, got a gold guy. I like the inclusion of some specific sort of styling to give it a, like a culture to it. I guess she's taking control of it, or she's killing it. Looks like she's maybe taking control of it. Elemental by Leo Chanel. No, Chassel. And I guess this is just sort of an all-around. This looks like a rock elemental, but it's got bat wings. So that I find to be a little odd. Not the easiest pairing for me to understand. And also the color scheme is fairly broad. It's really undecided at this point. We have basically orange and blue and red and purple and gray, and we have like a greenish in the background. So Let's think about what the colors are. Try to pick something where most of it is within a fairly small region, and then have like an accent color. So if you want that red accent color, then maybe the rest of this sticks to being more grayish and brown and natural tones. In which case, this would also probably want to be the red, so that these and the jewels all key together, and then the rest of this sort of harmonizes as well. Elemental gold. All right, this one is sort of cool, but I'm also confused about what I'm looking at. So you say elemental gold. I assume that this is a creature made out of gold is what I would initially think, but I'm not understanding it. Like, is the gold coming up here and making it, or is like I feel like the gold is dripping off of it. Maybe they're chained it up and they're draining the gold off of it. So I'm just a little confused about how that works. More a rock elemental dipped in gold. Okay, yeah, it just didn't quite get clear. Also, be sure and reference a little bit more of gold and how dripping gold, wet gold might look. You might want to look up the movie, what is it, Snow White and the Huntsman? Yeah, Snow White and the Huntsman. They had Kirsten Stewart in the main, where she has that mirror that can turn into a person, and that mirror like drips off the wall and puddles up. Get some screen grabs of that and see what, you know, dripping metal gold looks like and when it forms into stuff. And that might give you some ideas where to take it from there. Elemental 2 by Hephaestus. This is also one that just made me chuckle. I definitely smiled when I saw this. The originality of the design isn't big. The humor is good. And that is one of the things that some of you guys are particularly good at. And I like seeing that. Some people can get humor across in images, and some people have a lot harder time. I have a hard time doing it. I rarely think about how to add humor into my image. But I assume this is like a water elemental, and that's one of the other things. I'm not exactly sure what kind of elemental he is. Water, or like gelatinous, or maybe he's some sort of glass elemental. I'm not sure. So execution, I'd like to see a little more refinement on the execution, a little more refinement on the concept of the character itself, but stick with this idea of this odd little, you know, wet creature who just likes to, you know, collect little shiny things. I think that's great. Final 14 sends in this one. Again, so many different styles, so many ways to take this. I love seeing the directions that everything can go. It was supposed to be water. Water was my guess, Kadrasa. It just felt like maybe if it's water, then it probably isn't going to have that much blueness to it. Because water is generally pretty much colorless unless you get lots and lots of it. So down here, it would almost be see-through, and you would just have distortions with highlights. Obviously, it wouldn't have shadows on itself, but yeah, and like up here, we'd probably almost be able to just see through it, and then you would catch a little highlight. And the highlights on water are specular lights. It loves to jump from nothing mid-tone to white highlight, and it doesn't have much of a shade lighter as it goes across. So yeah, good idea. Just work on the execution of that and refine a little bit. I think you would have a really delightful piece that could end up going in a portfolio, because some companies really are looking for things that can just make people smile. They want fun characters in their games, and that's exactly the sort of thing it looks like you could give them. Final 14. Also talking about sort of fun characters. Now, it doesn't look like she's having much fun. She looks sort of dour, but the colors, the designs, all very nice. So this is elemental. I take it that she has multiple elements. It's like, you know, wind up here, and water, and flame, and earth. So she's carrying the 4 elements, And she has like the nature element of leaves and stuff here. I feel like this is almost departing a little bit from what an elemental is. I almost feel like it's a character that has elemental powers, but not being an element herself. So on that one, I have to kind of knock it a little bit just for direction. And I do like the wings. I like the idea of combining all of it together, and the colors are good. And I think you have a nice style here. Keep refining this particular style. There's a lot of outlets for people that have this particular style. Okay. Gilherm. Let's move down. Did a crystal one. I tell you what, crystal is difficult, especially if you're trying to make it into a humanoid shape. So this is one that I would say the concept is good. What you're trying to go for is good. I don't think you quite pulled it off. And I have, I'm not going to call you out for not being able to pull it off, because I would really have to sit down and think about how to pull this off, or how to even paint over this and make it work. Yeah, a crystallized humanoid. Tough, man. Now, I would say let's find probably a better pose or proportions to the character. Let's make them pretty epic in their overall design. So I like the idea of them standing in these woods. Maybe they're guarding this, palace or gardens or something. But go back and think about what the proportions are, because the head proportion of the body isn't right, and the arms to the body isn't right. So let's make something that is more idealized. If it's going to be something out of crystal, then let's make them very, epic and big and really beautiful. And make sure you get the proportions right, and then start doing some studies on how to do crystals. There's some really good free little, breakdown tutorials on Tumblr and Pinterest that different people have made about how to paint crystals. You can go check out some of those. Igor. This one, again, I feel like sort of strayed away from what Elemental is about, and I don't really see how that connects. We do have a little wing motif up here, and again, like I said, the wing motif doesn't mean there literally has to be wings. There just needs to be some designs, elements of wings in it somewhere. So this is like maybe a metal elemental, but he's like very sentient and smart and something. So fun execution. Very nice and clean. I appreciate that. Yeah. James. Dark Souls had to crystallize humans. Oh, did they? Yeah, so maybe look up some of the concept art from that. That might work. Looked it up. Something to do with water absorbing wavelengths, making it blue. Oh, about the other one. James did concept art. This is almost Dark Souls-like. And we have a storm elemental. Now, this is a really good way to do a storm. There were several of you that did storm elementals, and I think, James, this is probably the most effective rendition of that we got in the batch. So you can look at this. See, he went with the darks. He went with the lights. It's almost as if the wind and the arms and everything have volume to it. They have the thickness to it. It's very dense air. And you're taking artistic liberties, because in actuality, of course, it wouldn't look like that if you just had a lot of wind going around in a circle. But he's even got a little story to go along with it. This is kind of cool that he sends that through these pieces. Like maybe these pieces are just sitting in a pile until they're activated, and it wakens up, and then the wind comes out of them. The electricity is also a cool addition here. And he's been working with the color palette. This is one of the free palettes that I've offered up to you guys, where you can just pick your color range, and then you can copy and paste it down, and you can just work from your limited palette that way. Yeah, this is a particularly nice piece. Good work on this one, James. Joe Stiller, Forest Girl, #1. A little tall. Let's pull it down. Okay, this one, again, good idea. I think that you probably just ran out of time, didn't get to finish it as much, but it is one that I would say is worth finishing. So this character is kind of cool. Like, they're stone, but there's like metal pieces added into them, and there's also leaves coming off of it. And literally, like, their eyebrows are different kinds of leaves, and their eyelashes. And they're holding some... Now, this wasn't entirely clear. Is it like a water drop given form? I would like that clarified a little bit more. And going forward, you might even just drop the whole wing thing. I don't know that it adds anything if you didn't need to have wings for this particular challenge. So if you want to do some more work on this, I'd say kick the wings off, maybe add some flowers or something just pretty and interesting here in the background around them to replace it. And then just refine this. I'd like to see a bit more of the textures going on here and help me to understand more about what this little fellow is. Jorge Garcia gave us a Egyptian-styled elemental. Got quite a piece here. And as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking that it's like he's up here normally, but if you get into his region, he like flies down here and takes you out. And a lot of excellent execution. Yeah, Kitty's going to jump and move the computer. And good rendition on the metal. This can be something tricky to do, but you've obviously put some time into it. And the green is a nice addition, especially right here in this scarab area. That works quite well. And the green up here in the eyes, and a little bit of glow down there too. This guy, of course, not much time into him, basically just letting us know the size. One of the problems I find with this is that most of the part that's the elemental of this elemental is covered up. That the stonework of this guy is almost not visible, like a little bit here and a little bit there, and just top part of his arm. And then the metal covers everything else, and then all the sand covers up this huge part right here next to us. So if we were to redesign that just for an elemental challenge, maybe we could see more of the elemental. But excellent execution, and thank you for entering this one. I like seeing this one. Kayla. And we are like maybe halfway. Kayla. Alright, doing a crystal elemental. I like going with the bright colors. That's fun. And crystal elemental. And using them as the wings. This one feels a little like you try to include some light into it, but maybe we don't need so much light over here on this part. It's like, okay, oh, let me back up. This, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be metal or if it's supposed to be rock. If it's metal, then we do need the nice and shiny. But if not, I was thinking it was supposed to be rock, in which case I would say we need to dull this down so the crystals look even more shiny. Also, this part is very humanoid, and the face is sort of odd. Like, I get the feeling that these pink crystals, you know, clear bosom, that this is supposed to be a pretty character. But the face is not necessarily pretty. It's got like really big eyes and very sharp features, which contrast against that. If it's supposed to be more like a harpy character, then I think we need to go with a slightly different design with the rest of it. We need more like, you know, long spiky fingers, and we want to hunch the body over so that she's rounding over. She's kind of, you know, like this. And she's got maybe little, you know, spike, you know, thing coming off the end of her wing there. Otherwise, if she's beautiful, then let's tone it down the other way. Let's take away the spike on the shoulder. And let's give her a lot more beautiful curved shapes to the face. And let's give her a very feminine curve to her pose. So, yeah, this one's just sort of on the border. And I think once you do that, you're going to have a lot stronger character. You can figure out which direction you're going with that. Okay, Coidal giving us another fantastic piece. He was one of the co-winners last week. This is a very classic elemental, done exceptionally well. Again, he's gone with the little human in the foreground and a nice misty scene in the background to not complicate things from the character. Take a look at the size. The character lets us know how big this character is. The little runes are a nice addition. I've told you guys before, you do want a second read to it. You don't want it to just have one glance and you understand and see everything about the image. You want to have something there so that if you spend a little bit more time looking at it, you're going to notice more details. The little runes are something that is that way. Or the character. Maybe if you saw it in a thumbnail, you wouldn't notice the character. And I like his expression. He's just kind of a fun giant, like, he's like, I don't know, what's that? And using the grass for a beard, that's good design choice. Using weeping willows for the wing element, very good design decision. And it's making use of things in ways that they aren't usually used, but mimic the same idea. So again, very good. And I talked about painting grass a while back. That's a good execution of how to paint grass without using all the clone stamps from brushes from Photoshop. I think you might have used some brushes in there, but it's well done. Kaina Hansen doing a storm elemental. All right, one of the things I do like about this one is you went with purple lightning. Oh, that's a good choice. It's not standard, and I like seeing that. You have a very beefy body with the storm elemental, something that you don't always see, and you're choosing to add a robe and a mask to it. So I think that this could be cool, but let's refine the idea. The execution is a little straightforward, but I think a lot more can be taken away from the overall design. All right, so if we're going to have a storm elemental, that maybe this storm elemental, it's harnessed by this mask and robe. Almost like the, was it the Dr. Fate's mask, Naboo, in DC Comics, that, all the power resides in the mask, and if you put it on, you get the power. It's sort of reminding me of that. So let's find a really interesting look for the mask. When you place eyes up higher than halfway and you put them close together like that, it makes it look kind of cartoony, like not threatening. What we want to do is place the eyes a bit lower, and we want to squeeze them down like he's squinting. And maybe put some little hieroglyphics or something on it. Give me a little bit more of something to go off of in the design of the mask. And that could be cool. Now, we want to put fabrics in it. Okay, I like that. Good. We got a hood. Maybe part of the hood even comes up over the mask. But let's let the fabrics go crazy, right? I mean, we're kicking up a lot of wind. This is a storm elemental. Let's get these fabrics and we start wrapping them around and we get a lot of motion out of them. And they start adding to the energy of the scene. Yeah. Very good. Next, Mandalore. Right. Mandalore's gone with a different take. A very humanoid wood elemental. But what I like from this is the narrative. He's chosen to add an entire narrative to his scene that is very good, and it doesn't require reading any text to get the idea of what's going on. This wood elemental is using his natural sap in order to capture these fairies, and then he entombs them in little balls and sticks them on him and as like little ornaments. Maybe he then uses, sucks the power out of them or something. But great piece, man. This is a great piece, and it's well executed. The lighting is really cool, and the dynamic of using the orange against the cyan is a really good balance. So what would I say? I would say don't change that narrative at all because it reads so well. It is spooky and it is very personal. I feel like this is a very personal sort of moment. And you don't get that a lot in most artwork. I would say let's play with his design a little bit. It's almost too humanoid at this point. I like the breaks in the shoulders. That's kind of cool. We might add one more break just across the chest somewhere so it's not completely symmetrical. And then the head seems almost look like a skull simply made out of wood. So let's use some wood elements and more wood, I want to say patterns that you would find in wood in order to make it more uniquely elemental and less human. So like teeth. I don't think this guy probably needs teeth. Or if it has teeth, then be like rotten wood that's just breaking off. Or like if you snapped a stick in half and you got the jagged pieces. And maybe that could be his teeth. Or maybe, up here in part of the arm or part of the chest, there's just a big swirl of wood, where it's kind of just bent around. And maybe a branch broke off and it has that big knot style. So that would be the only thing, is just pushing it a bit further by refining some of that design element. Yeah, adding some of that in there might help. Okay, Mark Alexis decided to do a little one here. He's doing a little water elemental, wearing a couple of rings. Yeah, not a big scene, nothing crazy here, but I appreciate the entry. I'm glad you made some time to do some drawing. And, I'd be glad to see you work on him a bit more. Let me know a bit more about the size of this character. Where does this character live? And, maybe some other guys that he hangs out with. Show me some elementals from the other elements as well. Marco Fabro gave us a spark elemental. Purple, nice. And humanoid. So, we've got the elemental wings. This one, again, is pretty straightforward. Going this very humanoid shape. Let's play with the shape a little bit more. Alright? And there's several ways that you can take, like, electric characters. It looks like you're giving... This almost seems more like a superhero, if I can say it that way. She feels like she's less being made out of the thing than she just has kind of the superpowers of the thing. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so if you want to think of like a electric elemental, go take a look at some of the character Zareth from League of Legends and some artwork about how they did that. I put that in the chat for those watching. Zareth, Xerath. And you can see where you can actually start forming the shapes of things out of electricity. And maybe you don't do that on all of it, but maybe you do that like with her arms. Or that her wings don't have the shape that only electricity makes the shape. Yep. Matthew Romine, the Swamp Golem. You got a Swamp Golem here. I guess he's made out of like moss and other, bones and stuff from the swamp. So let's just see some more refinement on this one. I like that you're combining different elements of the swamp. A very Swamp Thing character sort of approach, but you're giving him more of a animal direction. And I think that's pretty cool. So, go look at some artwork from the Swamp Thing and what he looks like. How they introduce the human shape with all the natural elements. Then start looking at things like the crocodile head. I feel like that's kind of what you're going for here. But let's turn the head, because a crocodile head straight on, it's hard to tell the distance. So let's maybe turn his head so almost like he's stalking something, He's reaching out. Maybe he's looking out, looking towards this thing that he's reaching for. And so we get a little more 3D view of his head. And yeah, keep going with that. Let's see more of like moss hanging off of him and, you know, threads of wet goo coming down, or maybe it's mud going up into his legs, and see more bones sticking out, or maybe bones like the shoulder piece form different parts of his hand. Yeah, lots of ways to take that. Just keep working on the idea. Mitch Heslop, give us a magma. I think you said it was a magma, a lava elemental, very big one. And okay, this is sort of what I'm talking about. It's like it's very elemental in some areas, and then it's more humanoid in others. This guy makes me feel more like he's almost like a like a demigod sort of thing, and that's cool. Yeah. Matthew says, awesome, thanks for the advice. Well, you're welcome. Thanks for joining the challenge. All right, got to get a sip. Okay, Mitch says, you gave up, I gave up on this one halfway. Yeah, well, I understand. Sometimes we just hit a wall and we need some time off, or you got busy or something, but there's definitely some things working here. I think that you need to go look at some more ideas about how magma looks. There are some really good images about that. I'm going to say League of Legends again. Go check out the character Brand and some of the artwork for the character Brand. And depending on which version of Brand you're looking at, some of them are very magma. He's like made that way. And some look at the execution of it. I don't have time to go into it because we still have a lot to go through. But go look at that, and that might be enough to get you over your little slump with this guy. But adding the little characters to let me know the size was a good move, because I had no idea that he was really that big. I mean, this could just been a little rock. And also, look up some references, either artwork. I'm sorry, I've got the hiccups now. Either artwork or photography that has the color scheme and the mood that you want. This guy could be really good and be a lot more menacing if you underlit him. So take away the skylight or whatever light you have in this guy, and let the light primarily be from his own body and from the lava, warmth rising up. So he's like underlit, and he's made of glowing magma. My Starry Space gave us a wind elemental. One of my favorites. This one is pretty cool. This is like a wind elemental that was captured / made from this. It looks like an ancient device, like an ancient magic device, and I think that was pretty cool. Thanks. Did not have time to do a lot of elemental live in little puddle of water. Okay. So this is good. This is also a pretty good rendition of wind, and that can be really dependent upon what your background is. See, with that other piece, I said, I think you're doing wind, but your background's too light. Well, this one, you can see what it would be like if you darken the background, and now he has more values to work with to give more volume to the wind itself. Also, very good execution and design of this. We've got like these little pipes and a little spigot thing here, and we've got some gears, and like, I don't know how those shapes work, but I find them interesting. And I feel like there was a lot of craftsmanship in this. Like, this belongs to a certain world. This has a a mythology, a culture around it, a history to it. And that is something that I do see missing in a lot of junior art, where they just do something very generic and it has no sense of culture or design behind it. So, very cool piece. Yes, like a steampunk elemental. I can't go wrong with that. And I do like the, not the standard arms, like not human arms and fingers, but these long, lengthy ones, obviously made not to look completely human. Orchid Kitty, give us a tree elemental. And they said something about, I never thought about how to make a tree look old. Yeah, not something that you usually cover in art school, is how to make a tree look old. I like the scene that you're going for here. I don't know that it reads really well. I got the idea that, you know, there's been some sort of disaster or fire, but this tree is still here, and she got burned, and now the people are like hanging ribbons up here to make her, you know, be happy. And she was so sad because her limb got burned off. So it's a good story to it. I think you should give it another shot. I think if you come back, find some more references, do some more concepting as far as the character, probably even find a better angle. This might not be the best angle. We're quite a ways away. Like if we were closer when we were looking more this way, so that we had that in the background, but she was closer to us and we could see these characters a little better, then that would work a little more. Also, let's find some other trees, right? Look up sad trees onto Google and see if you can find some trees that naturally have that sort of look, that old look, sort of leaning. And yeah, give it another shot. Right now, I think the execution's not quite there. It's like you gave it a good first pass, and the first pass shows a good idea, but it needs some more revisions to it. Pawal gave us a, I believe they said this was, yeah, Wax Girl Elemental. Which I don't think I've ever seen a wax elemental before, so I applaud your originality on that one. So it's like a candle here, and she's watching the flame, but the wax comes off of the candle and loops around and actually forms her. So that's interesting, and we got some little leaves here, I guess, just for a bonus. And I assume that she's made out of wax. Another one that is a pretty cool idea, but it's very rough right now. Like I see some strokes here, but I don't know exactly what they are. I guess you're trying to go for wings, but it's like, is she made out of wax? I'm not entirely sure if she's made out of wax or what's going on there. So more revision on that. The idea is kind of neat if that's what it is. And if you can sell that translucent wax part, then that could be cool. A weeping willow would be a good tree for this, kind of like a tree from Pocahontas. Yeah, it would be. Yeah, that could be a good idea. You're automatically trying to get a tree that has a sort of sad shape to it, what we would consider a sad shape to it, to go along with your narrative. And now we have a little elemental. It says, Pepsi is my precious. So I guess I guess you're substituting the ornament or jewelry for a Pepsi. I think that's kind of a stretch. I'm not sure that I buy that, but it's sort of a cute scene and not one I would ever think to do. So the character is pretty good. You've got a nice non-human skin tone, and you're working in some of this stuff. I think you could probably go even a little bit further. The wings, I don't really see fitting. Like, I know that she's supposed to have wings like this, but I don't know what these are as far as, like, she's leaves and, like, viney stuff, but I don't know what that is. If these could easily be petals from a flower, but let's make sure that they're understandably flower petals. And, work out, keep going with it, though. I would say let's limit the light. Let's have a shadow falling across that so we can just get the nice colors from the top bit there of the logo. Then let the rest of it go into shadow. Because right now, that is so bright when you get a big circle with pure red, pure white, and pure blue in it. I don't care how cool your character is, your eyes are automatically drawn to this. So we need to obscure that a little bit and play around with the lighting so that she stands out the most in the image. Roman gave us a earth elemental bird. So we got several elements going on. It looks like, I guess these are feathers. I'm unsure of what these are. I think they're feathers. Then we've got like bone or metal and grass going up. So let's go for clarity first. If these are feathers, then that's not really elemental, because then it's just a bird that has like rocks and grass on it. Papa says, thank you for the critique. Well, you're welcome. Thanks for joining the live stream. The metal going along here is sort of an interesting idea that somehow this, like maybe this is magical and this part goes into it and that, you know, allows the magic to go through the rest of it. Going forward, find a better shape for the bird. Like, the bird shape here is almost fish-like. It resembles a fish more than I really feel a bird out of it. And maybe that's because of the size of the body compared to the wings. The wings feel very small to the body. And like, if the wings stretched out to here, that would be a different matter. Then also, the head feels kind of big there. Usually, birds' heads are fairly small compared to their bodies. And let's give more structure to this, like more design. Let's use this gold in more interesting ways. Let's, you know, do some curves out of it. It seems pretty curvy right now, so making more curly cues and, you know, rounds to it, or making more patterns to it, so that it's adding to the narrative, not so it's adding to the design, not just the narrative of what's going on. Okay, now we have Samuli Pentinen, Lava Elemental. Okay. Right, some things that I do like about this, I've gone for a fairly non-human shape. It's humanoid, but it's not completely human. Very, very blocky legs. The big wings that are clearly stone. And you dropped in the texture of, you know, cracks and magma going on. The bit of floating stuff up here is pretty cool. So where do we take this? Well, I would say this is a good concept, but now we need to refine it. We need to get stuff to push it further. We need to get what's working and make it better. We need to get things that are not working and, you know, play them down. So in order to make this better, let's find some places where the cracks are not even. Right now, the texture is basically even. There's the same amount of cracks everywhere. And we also need to start introducing at least a little bit of light source, because I'm getting lost on this arm. Like, unless we have some light and shadow going on, I'm getting lost on this arm and on this shoulder thing. So, like, yeah, like, the dimensionality of this, I'm just starting to lose depth because there's no lighting. But I'll assume you can come back and you can add some light and shadow and start, you know, pulling that out a little bit. But as far as the evenness of this, let's make it more uneven. For instance, and this would be a very classic thing to do, like letting the chest crack open so you have a bigger, more vibrant part of glowing magma right there on the chest. Then it cracks out in an interesting design. Not completely random, but not necessarily man-made either. Then maybe it's around his knuckles too. Maybe the knuckles and the hands are glowing red, and then it gets more and more rocky and solid as it goes up. And so what you can do is you start picking out points that are going to have more color and more pop to it as it goes on. And other places, maybe his feet, you know, have more solid, or the wings that don't need to break apart. Or in the wings, what you want to do is you want to use the cracks in order to be up underneath the different pieces. So places where things are overlapping is where you would see the glow of that red magma coming out from between them. Yep. Next one up is Sebastian Schmidt, who is doing a Elemental Tyrant. Now, he's taking this in a bit of different direction than normal Elemental, in that it's made of something. In some cases, an Elemental is understood to be essentially the embodiment of something. So you could have a war elemental, and it would be sort of a artificially constructed being that is the manifestation of war. Artificial manifestation of, you know, dread or fear. And in this case, that's how I'm thinking that he's taking it. This is the Elemental Tyrant. And Dude, awesome piece. I don't have that much to say about it. I know that you're going for a dark scene. I would say that's maybe even a little too dark, so popping it up a little bit would be helpful. But it's a cool angle. It's a cool lighting. It's very controlled on the values. It's very controlled on the colors. This weapon is not something I've necessarily seen before. It's super streamlined, and it's in 2 pieces, and it's got like electricity holding it together. And these are just look cool. Yeah, and one of the best ways to get something and make it not human is to give it not human features. Even if the body is pretty humanoid, if you take away those human features and you give it something like that, all of a sudden it becomes artificial. It becomes a golem. It becomes an elemental or something like, you know, in that area. Yeah, this is a pretty, you say he's spooked again. That's kind of a spooky image. He's big. He seems completely, you know, he seems completely indifferent to the suffering of anyone going on down here. I do like the little character here, at least just for scale reference. A little character right there too. The flames are well handled, not getting way too bright in order to take away from it. And just a little bit of cloth hanging down there, kind of covering the tricky bits. Well done piece on that. And all right, we're going to the last row. Powell says, what do you think about the blue elements on the face? And thank you for the critique. You did the wax scroll. What do I think about the blue elements? I think that taking away the features, I think taking away the features is the right move. I'm not sold that that is the best pattern to use on the face, because those are very soft shapes. Those are all spirally curves, where everything else about him is spiky and aggressive. And then you've got this very zen sort of shapes going on the face. So I would say keep that same blue design or green or something like that. You can have that off color, that little accent color, and that's okay. But let's make them, you know, jagged and more aggressive, more sharp-edged sort of pattern. Or you might put it you can be an accent color, but make it one color off of his normal color scheme. So right now, again, green is a peaceful color. It's a color of life, a color of growth, and he's supposed to be a tyrant. So if you shifted it to yellow, it would still be an accent because nothing else is yellow, but it's still in the region of warm colors. Or if you go like a bright violet, that might also work. So slight edits there might improve that. Yeah, it could have some narrative, yeah, like somebody said, narrative power. It could also be part of a series for as far as I know, and that's the symbol that every one of them uses. So in that case, you know, you use whatever you use, and whatever it is that needs to be consistent. But if it doesn't need to be consistent, then, you know, we already talked about it. Okay. Stephen Shields gave us a water elemental, beautiful lady water elemental. And I like the overall scene. You know, she's coming up out of the water just to greet this little butterfly, and it's pretty. I would like to see a little more work on pulling it off as water and wet. It feels like it goes to it almost feels very much more fairy than it does elemental. It feels very much just like fabric, white hair, and white wings rather than made out of water. You could easily replace this with grass, and I would just assume that she's a white fairy. So if you want to really sell that water effect, I think you need to go back and do some more work on the textures in order to sell that element to it. Also, let's play with the lighting, because the lighting isn't necessarily supporting the mood. I don't think you need to, you know, ditch the background in the entire scene. I'm saying that we just need to start introducing other light. We have a very positive scene going on. It's a very beautiful character, and it's a very positive scene, but it's got a lot of black in it. Now, black in itself is not wrong, but like this is super dark and shadowed, and this is dark and shadowed. This is like super dark and shadowed. So let's start introducing some more light into this place and make the environment also very beautiful and inviting. Okay, Tree Elemental by Dinsar. Okay, this one, they actually did Elemental, which was still part of its element, rather than on its own. And that's kind of nice to see, for variety's sake anyway. And we have the tree lady coming up here, and the wings are made out of different leaves. And I guess the ornamentation is this sort of glowing mushrooms, and that's good. Now, as I've said before, this is like the first pass, right? We got down this idea, we came down with our approach to it, the sort of lighting that we want. Now we need to give it another pass. What's working, what's not working, where do we take it? What is working is the idea. I like her emerging from the tree. In fact, this hand might even be reaching over to another branch and is pulling out of that branch as well. And, you know, I know that you're selling the idea that these are like leaves in so much that I know that that's what you're trying to do, but that's not what it looks like. So, you know, we'll need to go back and figure out how to turn these into limbs. Right now they're super symmetrical. So let's introduce a little natural unevenness to it. Nature is not super symmetrical. And do you know, proper leaves, and take your time and work out the shape of the branch and gives it some bends, and find some nice leaf shapes. And as far as the character, sort of the same thing that I talked about in the other one. You know, be careful of going too humanoid. You kind of go from wood to basically just a lady, you know, in 6 inches of this character, like right here to right here. So let's make sure that we keep this more wood-like. Let's see some wood texture in there. Let some things be informed, let the shapes be informed by that wood. And as far as the mushrooms, you could go further with that. Maybe you have the little ones there on her. But let's have some big ones. Maybe she has a necklace of them. Maybe there's big ones that form into her hair. Maybe there's ones that grow up and they're long and they drape back and form part of the hair. So give me different varieties of these mushrooms and start letting them have different sizes and work into the design that way. Okay, next up is Urban Drawer. Right. Urban Drawer did a celestial elemental, I believe is what they called it. And that's pretty cool. It's a very sort of epic scene, almost mythological. And, you know, the crystals are well done. I like the lighting. You focused it right there where the center part is. And the background lighting, it's well handled. I feel like, you know, like this head doesn't quite fit. Because when you get down to this point and you put the crystals on there, it ends up looking more like teeth. So I'm thinking that it would be better to have like a large crystal or larger crystals with maybe little crystals coming off of it a little bit. Otherwise, yeah, it does start kind of looking like teeth when it gets little and they're right along the edge of something and they're coming up. This is wood. I get that. So I'm a little confused, like, about the scale of it. Is that like a blue ball? Is that supposed to be a planet? Because if it's a planet, I need a little more information on that. Because I'm not quite getting that scale. Pamela says, Swatches, goodbye. Too bad you have people like her. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll have to look back and see what. But if you're having troubles with people, then yeah, I'm sorry. And stop talking to them. You know, don't feed the trolls if somebody's trolling. That's the way it works. Alright, so these crystals, I think this would be a good place on these in order to let them be luminescent. I think that'd be really cool. Right now, most of them are in the same color scheme. And if you were to add lights into these and let these add some extra color to the scene, that could be really cool. We had a trolling problem on Discord. Yeah, I'm going to set it up so that a couple of you will have moderation powers, because I can't watch it all the time, but somebody needs to be able to kick people, and I don't have a problem with people getting kicked if they need to be kicked. So I will work on that, and I'll probably be talking to a couple of people about setting that up. So sorry somebody's trolling. I will get on that, and we don't need that going on. Vazonia art. A wonderful piece here. A lot of punch to this image. And just really good execution. Great control of values. Obviously values, because there's not much color going on, but that's okay. Not every piece is needing color to work. And hey, I mean, some of the best images ever taken were in black and white, right? So this one is... Okay, judging was very difficult this time. Probably more so than any other time. And, like, this is one of the reasons it was difficult. Fantastic piece. Really good execution. Look at the way they did some of that lighting on that wing. Oh, I love it. I love that. Doesn't necessarily read elemental. It feels like somebody who can control some elements, like I said, like magic or superpower, but they are not in themselves an element, or they're not constructed. Where even a little bit to the side is what's his name's elemental tyrant. I at least feel like he was a constructed thing or a being made of magic. This isn't. So I completely applaud the execution of this. It is a cool character. It's well done. You notice that the real control of highlights on the leathers and the wings, and he didn't let those brighten up. He knew that this needed to be darker, have a darker overall shape, and so that it would read against that background. So he did that, controlled that. He let the legs go dark because he needed that to be dropping into a dark shape. He did that. I think that's pretty cool. I like the idea of these little branching magic lines, and it's sort of like the magic framework that she's using in order to manipulate the, the elements around her. You could even go a bit more with that, maybe up more by the hand, or give me some pieces leading down from the hand to these pieces coming up. Yeah, we've got comments in here. This is breathtaking, very beautiful. Is the artist Asian or Slavic? Oh, offhand, I'm sorry, I don't know. We could probably look it up afterwards. Vazonia art. Look that up while you're waiting. But yeah, beautiful piece. Thank you for entering. This is the sort of thing that you can, put in your portfolio if you haven't already. Cool character. Wood Elemental. I saw it earlier today on ArtStation. Amazing. Oh, he's getting some ArtStation viewing from it. Awesome. Wood Elemental. Kind of a straightforward version of the Wood Elemental. I do like the not completely humanoid shape, going really big and bulky. Almost your Swamp Thing shape to it again. And using the webbing up here, like spider webs, as a... as a wings, and the wing motive. I thought that was clever. That was a good, clever idea. The only one for this is, it's still really rough. So let's see some more refinement to it. And it's like, I feel like this is suggested wood, and I think these are birds, But I just need to see it refined more. I'm also, is this a hole? I'm guessing it's a hole. And again, I just need to see that a little more clearly. So keep working on it and refine it, because this is one of those pieces you can look at the piece and say, I know it's just a sketch, but it has good bones. And it's something worth working on further. Yeah. And the last one we're looking at is Ewan, if I'm pronouncing that correct. It is a earth elemental. Right. So they said they decided to do some photo bashing. And not something that they generally do, but they wanted to play around with the technique, and they came up with this guy. So we've got, I'd say one of the problems here is it's so dark. I'm like, I have to get really close here in order to make out. So apparently this guy collects feathers, and I'm almost thinking, you know, I'm trying to rationalize this by thinking he's so hard and ugly that he likes to collect things that are soft and beautiful. You know, if you could get that across, I think it would add more to the narrative and to his character. Otherwise, let's brighten it up a little bit. I care a little less about the background than I do knowing more about him. Also, this shovel is like super curved. So that kind of needs to be straightened out. It makes it feel like it's out of rubber or something. And even if he was bending it, it would have snapped by that point. And the legs feel a little too cartoony, like his stance. So let's take a look at that again and see if we can't find a little more subtler pose for that. But I like the idea that he's almost just a big part of Earth. And let's see some more roots. Let's break it up, all that Earth, with a bit more, you know, roots sticking out, some rocks sticking out. Just like a piece of Earth stood up. Maybe he's still got some grass sticking off of his back where, you know, that was the top of the soil. So, yeah, it could be, it's kind of scary. Yeah, it almost reminds me of an old horror movie villain, dark creature that's lurking in the town, that somebody's grave came to life and is coming back to claim somebody, and it's just made of the ground that he was buried in, or, you know, the blood of the serial killer seeped into the ground and gave it consciousness, or however those movies go. Okay, now we need to talk about the winners. Like I said, this was not easy. There was a lot of really good pieces here. And I'm going to flip back to get that layer back over here. So overall, Gray Stone Giant is cool. Not so much jewelry. So I'm doing a couple of winners, and each one of these basically focuses on a different aspect that they were going for. I wish I could pick like 10, but I think that's too many. So this is what I'm doing. For sort of originality, we were talking on Discord that these art challenges are open to anyone. I thought it was just for Patreon. No, these are open to anyone. I have an art challenge. There were art assignments a couple of times for only patrons, but that's not what this is. Anybody watching the channel is welcome to join in on these. So this one is one of my winners. Mr. Daedalus, I still think this piece charms me. It is an elemental taken in a direction that I'm not used to seeing. You've gone very small in size, and okay, the concept was good, the execution was good. You gave me an entire scene, and you made me have an emotional reaction. And for me, that's killer. All right, you hit 4 really big points. I'm happy to see the submission, and you are one of the winners. I'm doing multiple winners to cover several different points. So that is one. Next is, again, Coidal, man. You win again, co-winner again this week. I'm not going to say that this is super original. It's not. This is your standard elemental. But guys, I choose it because you can get a standard concept and do it well, and that's great. All right? In a lot of cases, and I've had to come to terms with this, that you're going to be hired by clients to do maybe an earth elemental. And it's going to be an earth elemental. Like, they're going to be asking for a classic earth elemental. And you'll need to be able to just do something classic and do it well. You do a classic troll, do a classic, this or that. But you can still make it a compelling image. You've got a narrative to it. It's executed well. The values are good. The pose is good. You got a good expression. So, for doing the classic elemental exceptionally well, Coidal, you also winner. Again, all the winners, please send me a message, either on Facebook or here on YouTube, and you get a free item from the store. Just let me know what it is, and I'll give you a link to where you can get that for free. Okay, and we got two more. All right, got two more. Mandalore. Mandalore is also a winner. This piece, again, good concept, good execution, good narrative going on, and a emotional reaction from me. I feel kind of, I feel disgusted by this thing. I feel like I'm mad at him, and I'm kind of disgusted at him that he's, trapping these innocent little pure fairies. And I don't know, he's it's icky. And you know what? If you can make me feel that, then you have done a good job. So congrats on that. And I still think there's room for improvement on some of the design stuff, but this does not take away from the fact it's a cool image with an excellent narrative to it. And the last one, if you have not already guessed, I can't pass up Sebastian's Tyrant Elemental. It's an amazing piece. It is it's pushing the edge of Elemental. You're going for kind of a mythological Elemental direction. But you know what? I'll allow it. It's very, very well handled. It's completely professional level. And I'm glad you sent it in. And I hope that you will, put it in your portfolio. I hope it gets you some attention. And this is one of those pieces. You pull off something like this, this is where you start getting work. This is where companies start, wanting to get you to do stuff for them. And, I would say just brighten the scene up a little bit, because not everybody's screen is probably quite as bright as yours. Anyway, those are the four that I'm going to hand it out to. There was a lot of other great ones in there. Like Vazonia Art. I think it's all this, completely the same quality. Just, it's not quite what this particular challenge is looking for as far as, design direction. There's several others, like James. This is a standout for me. If I can talk honorable mentions, you know what, I'll do that. Let's talk about honorable mentions. This one, all the great, execution, slightly off of the direction this particular concept is looking for. But I would be surprised if this doesn't get you some more views and attention to your portfolio. James, this is fantastic concept art. This is exactly what a lot of companies are probably looking for. It's well executed, and it's something difficult to do, and you did it very well. The only thing is, the other people gave me an entire scene and added a narrative to it. As far as, characters and backgrounds and stuff. If you were to do that, it would push it just slightly further. Jorge Garcia, this this, I feel like, is almost in the same vein as the Tyrant. And I just felt like the Elemental Tyrant did it slightly better. It was slightly more epic, and we got to see a bit more of the Tyrant. But otherwise, dude, top notch on your surfacing and your materials here. That is something that so many people have trouble with, and you're killing it with that. And the glow in the green and combining the two opposite colors, exceptional work there. Some of these others, again, I feel like the concept is good, and it just needs to be refined. Or you have it down, and it needs more execution, or you ran out of time. So anyway, I could go on for the ages. We're already an hour and a half into this stream. But that is what we got for this week. And it's awesome. I never thought we'd even be getting 42 entries for this weekly challenge, but it's fantastic. Let's talk about next week. Next week's challenge is going to be a bit different. And we're going to be doing... I'm going to pull that out of the way. I'll just go back to this. Next week's challenge will be to illustrate a retro robot exploring an alien terrain. Like retro sci-fi robot. Like, Forbidden Planet robot. Or the old Lost in Space TV show. Was it Robbie the Robot? I forgot what his name was. No, Robbie the Robot was from Forbidden Planet. Whatever the robot was from, Lost in Space. Danger Will Robinson. And so, yeah, give me that. You could give him like a ray gun, or, maybe he's collecting samples and he's like a little science robot. Or maybe he looks like one of those old Rock'em Sock'em robots. Give me a cool alien terrain. Maybe it has some, weird colors, or maybe there's even some creatures there. I don't know. But it is mainly about the robot, and also a bit about the terrain. I don't want to look at it and think, oh, that's definitely somewhere on Earth. Give me something sort of different with it. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to jump over here to the chat and see what you guys have. I will spend a little time here going over questions that you might have. But I'm not going to go too much further because, like I said, we're already an hour and a half. So, yeah, robots. Sci-fi. I think it's about time that we got some sci-fi going on in this. We get a lot of fantasy. I don't know if people love fantasy, but sci-fi fans out there. Clover says, no, sci-fi. Sci-fi. This one can be good. It's also good for texturing. Learning to do, it's mainly going to be metal on these guys, as well as doing like glass dome heads with like little mechanical things inside. Was very classic for these sorts of characters. And you're gonna, pay attention to doing like painted metal and also like chromey metal, and mixing in a couple of different ones of those. Visonia says, am I late? Yes, you are, Visonia. If you just got here, then you missed about an hour and a half. We just finished going through all of the injuries. So, will you do more streaming on Twitch? Yes, I will. When will I? Good question. I'm going to say... Let's see, what is today? Tuesday. Let's see, Wednesday. We're doing the Vibrant stream. Yeah, if you haven't joined in the Vibrant stream, tomorrow we're going to set... I think we're going to be talking about some stuff about goals. Your art goals, life goals, and knowing where you're going and what it is to you. Work says, Swatches, thank you for taking the time to review, everyone. Well, thank you for joining, and hopefully you found it helpful. Swatches, let us know what you thought of Blade Runner 2049 once you see it. I'll do that. It's not out on, like, DVD yet, is it? Is it? I'll have to take a look. I don't know. Because I know I missed it in theater. Swatches, as the community keeps growing and connecting, how about self-portraits for a challenge? Oh, that's a good idea. You know, I'm going to write that down. That's a solid idea. Self-portrait challenge. Are we allowed to do an astronaut with our robot? If you want to add an astronaut to the scene, sure. Yeah, you can add an astronaut to your scene. But the robot needs to be the primary guy. I'm going to be judging you on the robot. I mean, you can do a great astronaut, but if the robot's not up to snuff, then, yeah. Okay, Paulo says, so what makes something good is emotional reaction, originality, and quality? Well, okay, that's a good point. You're probably asking, like, how do I judge things? Well, first thing is, I want to know whether it is a good concept. And we saw some ones that had really good concepts. And then, okay, so you have concept, just the idea of the scene. And it doesn't always need to be completely original. Like Coidal's Rock Earth Elemental wasn't necessarily groundbreaking. The little acorn guy had better concept than his. Even though they were both like Earth Elementals, because he took in a slightly different direction. A slightly newer take on it. Something a little more interesting. Then you would have the execution. How well did they pull it off? What about the technical skill shown in the completion of this image? Now, all four of the ones that I picked had very good execution. They handled the perspective, the anatomy, the lighting, the shading, the edges, the color scheme, the value scheme. They had a lot of control over those, and they did it very well. Other things would be the narrative. If you added a narrative to the scene, it's not just showing me the character, but it's telling me a story as well. Like the wood elemental guy who's trapping the fairies. There's an entire little story playing out with that. And that, again, is another layer. And you don't necessarily have to do them all, but if you have a good concept and a good execution, and somebody else also has a good concept and a good execution, and they have a good narrative, then I kind of have to go with that person that took on everything that you did and added another layer to it. So that's where you start getting into that sort of thing. If you had a really good, and then some can pick up for other ones. Like if you had really good execution and control, but maybe not the best idea, that's kind of where Coidal's concept. He went with the classic design, but he did it so well. It was professional, and it didn't matter that it didn't have some original twist to it. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. Swatches, this may have been asked before, but these challenges digital only? Absolutely not. No. If you want to work in traditional media, you want to do pen and ink, watercolor, pastels, you go for it. But I'm going to also judge you on that particular media. And there are some things that are a lot easier to do or harder to do digitally versus other media. If you do something that's difficult to pull off with, say, soft pastels or watercolor, then I'm going to give you props for that. So it'll be judged, accordingly to that media. Swatches, okay, that just jumped on me. Hang on. Where did that go? Visonia says, dang, getting ready for a long 2-day drive to New Jersey. When will this get uploaded? I think YouTube usually takes like 30 minutes, an hour to parse the information and upload it. Yeah, it's not all that long. You had a beautiful piece, by the way. Visonia, beautiful piece. Unfortunately, I had somebody else won. The only thing about your piece, and I said it before, you'll see it in the stream when you rewatch it, is that as good as execution as anybody entered. However, I think you've drifted from the elemental aspect of the challenge a little bit, where It's supposed to be like somebody created from this thing, not somebody that has power over this thing. This is more like you're giving me a character that's more like it has magic power over rocks and the elements, or they almost like a superhero that has, like, you know, elemental powers. Where somebody else did, you know, other versions that basically did the same level, but they were elements in themselves. So that's what was going on there. Swatches, says CM Graves, do you know any artists or resources that we can reference for this challenge? Sometimes I draw a blank when I do stuff like this. I went out a bit earlier, and I would say, for this challenge, go look up old retro robots. I went to yandex.com, who I find now to have a better image search engine than Google's, and just look up something like retro sci-fi robot. Go put that in there and just, you know, screen capture or download those pictures and start, you know, finding some shapes that you like. I was like, I kind of like arms that have that big rubber round thing on it. Okay, so you take that and you start, you know, sketching with that. And then, oh, I kind of like a big glass head on mine. And so those can be where you get ideas, just what's already created. You're basically creating a character or a scene that you might have seen in an old science fiction, you know, paperback book of this robot explorer on the alien planet. And you should have that sort of retro vibe to it. Swatches, when you say robot, you think about a robot with artificial intelligence or a robot controlled by a human, like Goldorak. I would say it can have artificial intelligence or controlled by a human. It could be like a remote thing. But let's stay away from androids. This is a retro robot. This is where they were clunky. Yeah, this is not streamlined, you know, humanoid, eyes, nose, mouth, that sort of thing. This is like clunky or style. Federico says, bye Clint, bye everybody, see you next week. Federico, thanks for joining. I hope you have a good weekend. Or week. Yeah, it's not the weekend anymore. Swatches, thank you so much for everything. I started giving up on illustration, but now because of you, I'm hungry for more. Well, thank you. Man, if it matters to you, then I am glad that you did not give up. And if I have helped, then I am honored to know that. And I appreciate you sticking around and, you know, going at it more. It really is. It is a lot of fun. You know, it is a lot of fun if you just stick with it. And there are so many hurdles, but I think, honestly, I think that art becomes more fun once you just get the fundamentals down. And you're not having to just pull teeth every day in order to get the basics. I won't say it ever becomes easy because your expectations get higher, but when you get to where you're progressing and you see that growth, it inspires you to keep going. And it's like adding new tools to your toolkit. When you have a hammer, you can build certain things, but there's other things you just can't do. So then you learn how to use a skill saw. Well, now with a skill saw and a hammer, you can do all this other stuff. And each one of these is like in art, you learn how to do, you know, a portrait, and now you can do images that have these things, and then you learn how to do proper perspective, and then you can do these things. And each one of these things that you start having, you know, a mastery or an understanding of, allows you to start taking on these other pieces. And that's where you get to be doing more complex scenes, and you really, it's like it broadens out what you can do. and then you feel more and more creative because you have more and more things that you know that you can actually take on now. Anyway, good idea, Beverly. Thanks, question. Graves, okay, you guys talk to each other. So no mechs. No, we're not really thinking mechs. No, this is like humanish size retro robot. Alejandro says, thanks for doing this, Master. Thanks for the space and for teaching us. Oh, well, you're welcome. Alejandro, thank you for joining in. And I assume you're probably coming out and joining us on the Facebook page. Make sure everybody goes out to the Facebook page, swatches.group, joins out there. I will be out there and, you know, talk to you guys when I can. Same thing for the Discord. And yeah, I will put out there when I'm going to be streaming on here and on Twitch. So I've got some other things that I've got to take care of. I've got my own commissions that I have to take care of. Unfortunately, I cannot stream those because they are, you know, confidential. And so time that I would normally want to stream, like right now, I've got to jump over and work on some of those commissions. But Anthony says, where can I post my art? If you don't already have an online gallery, then you can go open one of those up. And there's several good options. DeviantArt is the older option, not a great site for high quality stuff. It's huge, but it's free. You can go to deviantart.com and open a free gallery. You can also go to artstation.com. It's higher class and, again, free, good hosting. And then what you want to do is leave a link. Okay, you create your image and then you upload it to your gallery. And then you copy that link for that page and leave it in a comment to this video once it gets posted. And then I will copy it and, you know, pull it off for the entries. Oh, okay, I misunderstood you. You say when I say Goldorak, I mean controlled by human from inside like a pilot. You know, I'll let you have that. Sure. Yeah, let's stay away from the whole, like, attacking missile-powered mech thing. But if it's still kind of retro robot with a pilot in it, then, yeah, I'll stay interested to see what you'll come up with. Hey, Swatches, come join us on your Discord. Yeah, I will when I can. Swatches is Molly. Thanks so much for the crit and for helping keep us all motivated. It's been very inspiring. Hopefully this next week will be even better than this one. Well, I hope so, man. If we top 42, I will be ecstatic. I'm just thrilled with the response that you guys did, and the variation is astounding. I love it. Don't forget, if you are one of the winners, you need to send me a message and let me know, because I cannot send you messages with my channel. You need to send me messages. So, anyway. Alright, I think that's a good stopping point, and I probably won't stream tonight, because I've got to take care of other stuff since I was out of town for the entire weekend. And I will try to stream maybe tomorrow night after the Vibrance. If I can get to it, I'll try to get some time freed up so I can do that. But for now, thank you for everyone, and Retro Robot Exploring Alien Planet for next time. Also, join the Facebook, join the Discord, and until you see you next time, keep drawing.